Here they come. Here's Todd Brady from Intel, Libby Wayman from GE, and Pete Perciavelli from MWH. So welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
So let's start with some basics here. What are we talking about when we're talking about infrastructure? Todd?
Yeah, well, actually, I was going to defer to Libby. She's the expert on the subject, but I'd be happy to talk about it. When we're saying smart infrastructure, we think there's just a tremendous opportunity to, both a technology company, industrial companies, to embed smart solutions in everything we do, whether that's industrial, commercial, cities, you name it.
But you're talking about water, but obviously Intel is inside so many things. But is that, because I would imagine that just, we were talking about the water part right now, but you are basically about digitizing. I mean, the whole company these days is really, in some ways, about that.
Absolutely. I mean, water was one example, which Ann mentioned, and we think there's certainly opportunities to apply technology for water conservation. But that's just the proverbial tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
The applications are endless, where we can integrate technology into sustainable solutions.
So infrastructure for you is really everything.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so and I'm afraid the answer is probably going to be the same for you, Libby, because you're talking about systems of all kinds. But when you talk about digital infrastructure, because that's become a big part of the of Ecomagination and GE in general, what are you talking about? What's sort of the range of things?
Well, for infrastructure, we're really looking at the major systems that power, move, and cure our economy and our people. The energy sector, the transportation sector, flight, rail, healthcare, water specifically. And we've seen a lot of digital solutions really start to revolutionize infrastructure. Power plants, for example, we have a digital power plant solution that can enable an efficiency improvement of up to 8%. And so applied across the entire power sector, this can save enough fuel to reduce carbon emissions by up to 500 million metric tons of carbon and save also $14 billion in fuel costs.
So real money involved with what happens when you get this right. And Pete, for people who don't know what MWH is, give us the elevator pitch and then talk about where you fit in on the infrastructure piece.
We're dominantly an engineering company and constructor. We have all market verticals covered, from power to water, environmental, buildings, all types of transportation infrastructure under MWH Stantec. And we also have a big data and analytics team that sort of works across all those industry verticals.
So and you're working a lot in cities, city infrastructures in particular.
We work a lot with city infrastructure, local government, some state, some federal work.
Right.
Also.
So you're all working on some aspect of digital infrastructure. That's the what. But let's talk into the what does it take to do that? What's involved, and who needs to be at the table, and sort of is there can you rebuild infrastructure digitally in real time? So first of all, sorry, Libby, you're gonna and was the other person. You're going to, you really cover the broadest, I think, realm here in GE, as you said, from locomotives to water systems to wind turbines, and as you guys like to say, things that spin. Right. It's not just a matter of putting sensors in. How much do you have to really, create whole new products and services?
Well, it really starts with the industrial internet. And the industrial internet allows assets to be connected to the cloud, to run advanced analytics and optimization routines across assets of different types that form a system. And based on some of our early work in the industrial internet, GE invested in a platform called Predix that can enable all of these assets to be connected. And then you can start optimizing systems to drive efficiencies and savings in fuel, resources, emissions, and cost beyond what's inherent in the individual systems or in the hardware alone. And you're right, it's It's a combination of sensors, compute power, which has been a really big enabler, this industrial internet platform that allows different assets to be connected and optimized. And then the last piece is the individual applications that run on the industrial internet platform. And that's where we're seeing a lot of growth and a lot of opportunity for advanced technologies like AI and machine learning to start having predictive capabilities to optimize efficiency and also eliminate unplanned downtime.
Todd, I would imagine, we hear a lot about these kinds of things, but they seem, at least up to fairly recently, sort of one-off, sort of pilots here and there. Is this getting past that stage now where we're not just dealing with pilots, but we're actually starting to get to scale? And what does it take to sort of move past that pilot phase to take a system? Can you have an example where that's
absolutely. Let me give you a couple of examples. We just finished our newest office building in India, and we built that from the ground up to incorporate Internet of Things, analytics, sensors throughout the entire building. As a result of that, we can optimize our energy use, our HVAC use, lighting, et cetera. That building is 50% more efficient. It's a LEED Platinum building, and we're seeing great feedback both from employees utilizing the building as well as our facility systems that are running it. So, and as a result of that, that now becomes the baseline for an additional building, which we're now starting in Central Israel.
And how much, sort of what's the scope of the data? There's this story of Microsoft's Redmond campus up in Washington where they were bringing in weather data and transit data, and as well as what was happening with all the various mechanical systems within the building, and really starting to get predictive. Is that? I mean, that seemed to be something that hadn't been really replicated outside of that one story. Is that now starting to be possible?
Yeah, I think so. And so we can not only get data about the systems running the building, we can get outside data, we can get data on how the building is used, where the people are within the building, and how to optimize the space. One of the things that our real estate portfolio managers always lament is the fact that we're not utilizing our space as much as we could.
Yeah.
This gives us real-time data about how our space is being used, and therefore we can optimize it.
Pete, I would imagine that this kind of changes how engineering is done when you have the Internet of Things and building information management systems. How does that change your profession?
Well, it changes us internally and externally. Internally in a way that we now think of engineering, and classically we thought of engineering as a very closed system. We had structurals, we had electricals, we had all the different disciplines. Now we almost have to think of it as a supply chain. BIM is changing the way we do and construct, design and construct, the way we visualize and communicate to our community stakeholders. Augmented reality is changing that very quickly in the way we visualize things. On the internal side too, the Internet of Things and the big data, emergence of big data is changing the way we deal with customers and changing the way that clients do customer management, their customer management, and deal with their stakeholders. And we never had insight into a lot of this stuff before. And in a couple of our examples, we were faced with an interesting conundrum. We didn't add any sensors, and we unlocked all of this additional information and efficiency for a client, and we didn't add one sensor. It was really just the way we looked at the data, structured. It was over 20 different live data feeds coming into the system, and we got all of these great efficiencies out of it. So
and is that changing the next generation of engineers that you're seeing coming into the job market? Is that a different language they speak instead of digital natives?
Well, it's interesting. Wastewater is not often the most exciting thing to do when you come out of UC Berkeley or MIT. Most people don't run to the wastewater side of the business or water. It's not sexy. And millennials are sort of born with that cell phone in hand. One of the big deficits is getting operators and people excited about managing a sewer shed, a watershed. The application of some of this new tech is sort of invigorating a lot of those young folks to get involved with environmental issues, get involved with management of a sewer shed, watershed environment. So we see it as a big catalyst in gaining more interest and momentum in this space.
One of the places that this also wasn't sexy is in funding and the financing of all this. And Libby, is that changing at all? Are you starting to see I think there's a project you're doing with Goldman Sachs. Are you starting to see the money flow into these kinds of things where it might not have been before, or where the value proposition with the funders is changing because of the digital aspect of the infrastructure?
A big barrier for financing infrastructure projects in general, especially with new technology, is just understanding how the technology works. And we saw that in solar at the beginning of the penetration of solar into the energy space. We see that a little bit now with storage. And so to the extent that data can help inform financiers, that should accelerate their acceptance of these new technologies, help them understand how they work, how they degrade over time, how they perform over time, and give them more confidence to invest.
So what does that enable? Does that mean there's more money or cheaper rates, or is it just that a quicker transaction time?
I mean, we'll see how this plays out, but I think it would probably mean that the adoption curve is a little quicker now that there's more data available. Mm-hmm. But this is definitely a new frontier. This is the first wave of new hardware that's coming into play when there's been quite so much data.
Yeah. So Todd, you're partnering with Libby's company on water infrastructure. What are you able to do now that you couldn't do, because you've been in this for quite a while, what are you able to do now that you couldn't do not that many years ago?
Yeah, it's the access to information. GE's been a great partner for us over the years in terms of improving our own internal water efficiency and recycling, reclaiming more water, for example. But where the data analytics piece allows us to do is now have much more information right at our fingertips, whether it's in our operations or, as we previously discussed, whether it's activities that we're doing in the communities to help save water. One of the projects that we recently initiated is embedding sensors throughout the fields for agriculture. And again, the idea being to optimize the amount of water that's being used in those fields. You couldn't do that, 10 years ago. You can do that today.
Does that allow you to operate in water-constrained areas that might not have even allowed a chip fab plant to operate on site?
Well, potentially. I mean, as you look to the future, you can, the efficiencies that you can get through these technologies just open up many additional opportunities for you, whatever that might be.
Yeah. So Pete, how does this play out in cities? I mean, if you're a utility, trying to, working in a city, they're not prone to, quick transformations and necessarily, digitizing things. Talk a little bit about that process and the kinds of progress you're seeing happen, or maybe not yet happen.
Well, it's slow. Cities deal with a lot of issues. You got 4-year mayoral cycles. You've got council. You've got utility directors. You have the public. And there's a lot of things, and I always say one of the most difficult jobs is being a utility director. You're balancing a lot of different, very multivariable set of equations. But one area, and I'll give you an example, Atlanta is one of our early adopters in the space of leveraging some digital. This is the client that we didn't add any sensors on. We managed their program for about 10 years around their consent decree, and this had hundreds and hundreds of sewer rehab projects out there. And we put in a big data stack. We put in a whole bunch of new analytics, integrated over 20 real-time data feeds and I'm not sure that we knew what we were getting into when we developed the first set of use cases. But we reduced the number of dry weather overflows in that sewer shed, 3-month rollout, that's all it took, by 30%. it was so good that it even made the evening news. And sewers never make the evening news in a good way, ever.
The evening news usually has its mind in the gutter anyway.
Yeah, it's usually bad. We increased the O&M efficiency by better workflows, better management, more information, true information, not just more data. We improved the efficiency of the capital spend to really improve the sewer set.
I want to get, we'll finish the sentence, go ahead.
Yeah, and what it really represented was a change in engineering paradigm. It changed the way we looked at master planning for a utility from this paper monster into this real-time environment. And now we have all new analytics and new solutions coming out weekly. So it's a great early adopter and a great application and use case example.
I want to get to a question in a minute, but Libby, I have to ask you about cybersecurity here because we're digitizing everything and all of a sudden we're creating this great big target. I mean, we're seeing every week in the news, I mean, the Equifax thing and so many of these instances. So how are you making sure that as water systems, energy systems, traffic systems, building systems become digitally enabled, that we're not just setting up a big juicy target?
It's a very, very important question. There are a couple things that we're working on. First is authentication, both at the asset and at the cloud and the transmission. And then the second piece that's really important is identifying a breach when it happens. We've heard about a lot of other breaches that have had systems that have been infected for a long time before they were actually acknowledged. And the way that they do this is they infect a system, operate pretty normally, and then start to slowly perturb the operations until it becomes a big problem. So another piece that is very important is early detection of infection immediately. And it's something that will be just continually refreshed and kind of an arms race on the security side.
That's not keeping you up at night, the fact that everything you're building is hackable? I mean, airplane engines?
It keeps a lot of people up at night working all night long. And I think it's almost impossible to stop progress. So the key is to just accelerate progress and to stay ahead of it.
Good. Elaine, what do we got? Any questions?
Well, you took my questions, Joel. It looks like people, and you guys actually answered quite a few that were coming in, so that's great in terms of how do you retrofit existing infrastructure, cybersecurity issues, et cetera. There are a couple questions that we got also related to automating everything. So what ends up happening if you continue to automate our infrastructure, what will the impact of our workforce be, and how do we prepare to educate and train the workforce for this new digitally transformed infrastructure economy?
Right, and there's a couple tables of students right here that just perked up. So, any thoughts on that?
I can say for GE at least, all of our executives and business leaders and strategic leaders in the company are required to come up to speed on digital technologies. They're all going through digital training, so it's a retraining and a re-education of our own workforce. And then for the workforce that we're hiring, we're expecting everyone to have some amount of literacy in digital capabilities, and the technology changes really quickly. And I think it's a really great opportunity for the workforce of the country and of the world, really, to sharpen their skills and help accelerate progress.
Do you see a job shortage, or do you see plenty of the pipeline of new talent coming in?
We see a really great pipeline of talent, and it's very competitive, though. And so we work really hard at attracting the best talent and the brightest minds.
Great. Well, that's going to take us to the end. Speaking of great talents and bright minds, please join me in thanking Todd, Libby, and Pete.